Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Justina and I'm the designer behind the JustynaTHandMade patterns. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to create the Aster crossbody purse, but I'm gonna show you a couple hacks how to change the pattern. This pattern comes with the complete written instructions, so you can complete the back the way it is designed in the pattern, or you can implement those two hacks that I'm going to show you how to do today, and they are the addition of the zipper closure. The initial pattern has a magnetic snap closure, but I wanted to give you an option to add a zipper closure if that's something you prefer, and also a design option. You can add this facing of the zipper opening on the back of your purse. This is also optional, and it's not included in the original pattern. I'll be providing the measurement for this in the description box below, so if that's something you want to add, you can follow this video and do so. If that's something you are not interested in, just make sure you're going to refer to the pattern instructions on how to install the zipper packet, because the installation process it's different, so that's something to pay attention to. Like I mentioned, this is my design and my pattern. This pattern is available in my Etsy store. The link to the pattern is included in the description box below. This tutorial serves as a backup instruction for the pattern, and it's not intended to be a complete pattern for the purse. You would need to purchase the pattern and refer to the pattern templates and the cut list to cut all the necessary pattern pieces to complete the project. If you are already a subscriber to my channel, thank you so much for coming back. If you are not, please consider subscribing. And if you have any suggestions or any requests of me creating a tutorials, please leave a comment. If you would like to have access to discounts or information about new pattern releases and promotions, please make sure to join my Facebook group. The link to the Facebook group is in the description box below. And now, if you wanna see me creating this version of the Aster crossbody purse with the zipper closure and the cute facing of the zipper packet on the back, please keep watching. To start our project, so we're gonna prep all our pattern pieces. You're gonna cut them based on the provided pattern templates and the cut list. Also, you're gonna prep your pieces by interfacing them per the instructions. So I'm just gonna run through the pieces real quick. This is our inside pocket accent. This is our bottom of the purse, our piece for our D-ring tabs, the back of the purse, which includes interfacing, and as mentioned in the pattern, you're gonna make sure that you are fusing the interfacing level and in the center, because you're gonna use this opening to cut out your back pocket zipper opening, so you want to make sure that this part is nice and straight. Then we have our inside pocket panel, our zipper pocket lining, and our two main lining panels. I interface them with the sew fuse. Also, I cut out our back pocket zipper facing. That's an addition to the pattern. It's not included in the original pattern, so I'm going to show you how to do that. I also have my front of the back panels, and as you can see, I did not interface them separately. You're gonna interface them after they are sewn together, and that's my interfacing. I also have two zippers, one short zipper for the back zipper packet and a longer zipper that I will provide measurements for in the description box below. To substitute our closure of the magnetic snap for a zipper closure. So that's going to be one of the hacks to the original pattern. Now, to get us started, we're going to connect our front panels. So you want to place the front panels right sides together and clip along the straight long edge. When you have your panels clipped and aligned, you're gonna take this unit to the machine and you're gonna sew along this edge with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. When you have those panels sewn together, you're gonna open the unit and you're gonna butterfly the seam allowances on the back. You can finger press it. Avoid pressing with iron, as you can damage your vinyl. So just make sure the seam is open. And when you have the unit prepped like this, you're gonna take it back to the machine and you're gonna top stitch along the seam on both sides with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 4mm stitch length. Now the panel is top stitched and the seam allowance is nice and flat on the back. We're gonna interface our front panel. So yet again, you want to be careful when you are applying heat to the vinyl. So make sure you applying the heat from the back and you are using a pressing cloth. Now that we have our front panel interfaced, we're gonna move on to prepping our D-ring tab. To do so, you're gonna flip the panel wrong side up and take your panel number 3 with the D-ring tab marked. Using a marking tool, transfer this shape onto your front panel. After you have the shape transferred, cut it out. Now that your D-ring tab cut is made, we're gonna work on creating our D-ring tab. Take your D-ring panel and place it wrong side up, and using double-sided tape, we're gonna fold the outside edges to the middle. When you have your panel prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna top stitch along those 2 long edges. After your D-ring panel is top stitched, you're gonna fold it in half and cut it in half. That's gonna create the 2 D-ring tabs that we need. You're gonna put one aside. You're gonna take your panel and you're gonna fold this little part inside, and you're gonna insert the D-ring tab through that opening. Making sure that the open edges are facing up. So you want to make sure you have about 3/4 or an inch inside, and those little triangles are inside of your opening. And when you have this done, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew along this edge with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance to attach the strap to the top part of our panel. After your D-ring tab is sewn in on the top of the panel, you're gonna insert your D-ring and you're gonna place the other end of the D-ring tab inside of the opening. Yet again, making sure that all the fabric is folding inside. You're gonna pull the tab as far as it's gonna go, not pulling on the stitches. So you want to make sure you're gonna have about a 1/2 inch tall tab in the front, and then you're gonna fold the outer panel out and clip the tab and the little piece of fabric on the wrong side of the project. So you want to make sure that everything looks nice and neat in the front, that all the fabric is folded nicely inside, that your little corners are inside also, and then you want to make sure you are folding the panel at the place where that little extra fabric starts. When you have your outer panel prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew along this folded edge through the fabric of the outer panel and through both ends of the D-ring tab. Make sure to backstitch well on the beginning and on the end of the seam. You can see that I sewn the tab connecting those two ends of the cut, and now when I flip the panel open, I have the D-ring tab attached. I have a nice clean finish to my D-ring tab, and now I'm gonna add a rivet to give the tab a little more strength. You can do 2 rivets if you like. I'm just gonna do one in the middle, about 1/4 of an inch down from that fold. After my rivet is attached, the last thing to do to prep your front panel is to add your back tack. If that's something you want to do, you can add it in the middle. I want to add it on the plain side of my bag. And also when you're doing that, you have to take the box corners under consideration and the bottom of the purse. So when you're trying to find the midpoint of the panel, you have to deduct those pieces of fabric. Don't put it right here, because then that's going to be really on the side. If you are aiming for a middle of the panel, but that's totally up to you. You can put the name tag in a place that best suits you. Now my front panel is prepped for further back construction. I'm gonna move on to prepping my back of the bag. So the first thing we want to do, we want to prep our zipper opening, and to do that you're gonna use the opening in the lining to cut out your zipper opening. And here's a note, this is not what's written in the original pattern. I'm gonna be adding the zipper pocket facing. I'm gonna provide measurements for this facing in the description box below, so just take a look. If you are not planning on adding the zipper facing, just make sure you're gonna be following the steps provided in the pattern, and do not cut out the whole zipper opening. That's a different technique that it's used in the pattern. But using the zipper facing, which is gonna look like this, I'm gonna cut out the zipper opening fabric completely out of my back panel. You wanna cut the opening a tiny bit bigger, because we wanna make sure when we put our facing that the initial fabric, it's not gonna show on those inside edges. As you can see, my opening is quite larger than the opening in the facing itself, and that's exactly what I wanted. So now we're gonna find placement for our facing of our zipper pocket. To do so, you can use some double-sided tape to place along those two longer pieces of the zipper facing. I want to make sure I'm gonna keep it out of the way of the seam, so I'm just want to make sure it's gonna keep the placement of my panel on the back, but it's not gonna be in the seam line. Remove one of the backing strips and center the panel in the opening you just cut out. Now we want to flip it over and make sure that our zipper opening facing is centered. So you want to measure, check a couple measurements and make sure your zipper opening is centered. Mine looks pretty good, so now I can, and it looks to me like it's nice and straight, it's level when you have your purse up, so I'm content with that. I will move on to removing the second backing of the strip and making sure I have now my zipper backing accent piece attached. Also, you want to make sure that your zipper panel accent is not gonna be in the way of your D-ring tab. If your facing piece is a little too large, you can trim it to make sure we're gonna have space for our D-ring tab. Now that you are happy with the placement of your zipper opening accent, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna top stitch all around the outside edge of our zipper accent panel. Don't sew the opening inside. We're gonna do that when we attach our zipper pocket and lining to our back. Now that my zipper backing accent is attached, I'm gonna work on attaching my D-ring tab. So I'm gonna flip my panel wrong side up, and using panel number 3, yet again I'm gonna place it on the left side of my project, and I'm gonna transfer the little opening. And you want to make sure that you have the D-ring on the opposite sides, right? So when you have your back put together, you're gonna have one D-ring on this side and one D-ring on that side, so this way you can carry your purse. So just make sure you are keeping this in mind. But the panel is created in a way that you're gonna use panel 3 on both outer front and outer back, and transfer the openings. So when you flip those panels together, you're gonna have the D-rings on the opposite sides. All right, so we have our opening drawn. Now we're gonna cut it. When you have the opening cut, we're gonna move on to installing our D-ring tab. So you're gonna take the remaining piece of your D-ring tab and you're gonna insert it through the openings, making sure that the cut edges are facing up. And when you have that done, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew above the top cut with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. When you have that sewn, you're gonna take your D-ring and put it onto your D-ring tab and thread the other end of the tab through the opening, making sure that the fabric is pulled inside. Now you want to make sure you have about a 1/2 inch tab. Mine looks good. Now I'm gonna fold the panel up and secure the fold in place. And when I have that secured, I'm gonna take it to the machine and I'm gonna sew on the fold line through my outer fabric and through my tabs. Now I sewn my tab. It looks nice and neat from the front. So now I'm gonna move on and attach my rivet. Now that the outer back panel is prepped, I'm gonna work on prepping our lining for our outside zipper pocket. So you're gonna take your shorter zipper tape and your 2 zipper pocket panels. You're gonna place one of the zipper pocket panels right side up and center the zipper tape on one of the long edges and secure with clips. When you have that done, you're gonna take your second pocket zipper panel. You're gonna flip your zipper tape over, exposing the unclipped edge, and align it with the long edge of the second lining panel. When you have your panels prepped like this, you're gonna take them to the machine and you're gonna sew the zipper onto the lining panels with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And you're gonna repeat that on both, making sure that when you're sewing, both panels are together and you are not sewing the pocket shut. When you have the lining panels sewn into the zipper tape, you can now iron the panels. You want to make sure that they will stay nice and open. Now that the lining panel is ironed, you're gonna insert your zipper pull. Since the lining panels are the same size, we're gonna trim them after the packet is completed. You can insert the zipper pull from either side. When you have the pull on, we're gonna now place the packet inside of our zipper opening. To do so, we're gonna use double-sided tape. Remove the bottom of one strip of the tape. Take your outer panel and center the zipper inside the zipper opening. You want to make sure you have equal overhang of the pocket on both sides of the zipper opening. And now when you are happy with that placement, you can remove the other side of the tape and press it to make sure that our panel is attached to our pocket lining. Now that you have your pocket prepped like this, you're gonna take the unit to the machine and you're gonna top stitch around the zipper opening with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 4mm stitch length. Make sure that your pocket stays nice and open, so you're not gonna close the pocket shut. Now our zipper pocket is attached. We're gonna finish up our pocket lining. So you wanna place your lining together the way it's supposed to be when the pocket is completed, and you wanna trim the longer part of the pocket. When your pocket is trimmed, you're gonna clip all the edges. Your pocket is prepped. To avoid sewing through the outer panel, you're just gonna place your pocket this way on the machine, and you're gonna sew, closing all the open edges of the lining. After your pocket lining is sewn together, we can now move on to working on our zipper closure, and that's a hack to the pattern. The pattern has a magnetic snap closure, but we're gonna make this version of the bag with the zipper closure. So you're gonna take your longer zipper tape, and first you wanna square off one end of the zipper. You're just gonna split the tape, pinch, and fold the zipper tape away. Now you can take the lighter and just melt those folded edges with the long edge of the zipper together to hold the fold. And you're gonna repeat that on the other side. If you are afraid of burning your fingers, you can base those folds in place on the sewing machine. But if you want to try this method, go ahead. Just make sure you are careful and you're not gonna burn yourself. When we have those two ends squared off, we're gonna roughly measure our zipper tape. So you want to place the zipper tape about 1/2 inch above from that corner, and just roughly measure it up to 2 inches from that corner. So you want to mark that spot. And to prep our zipper, we're gonna now snip the edge of the zipper tape. We want to snip it by not more than 1/8 of an inch, and do it every 3/8, 1/2 inch. You can mark the other side of the zipper as well and just snip that side also. And when you have your zipper prepped like this, we're gonna attach it to the front of our bag. So you want to put the bag on the side. We want to make sure we're gonna have the way the purse opens in mind. When you are doing a snap closure, none of those steps matters, but if you want to try the zipper closure, we should be starting with the front of the bag, because when we're carrying the bag, we want the zipper pull to be on the front when it's hanging on our left side. If you like to carry your purse on the other side, you just have to do the opposite. So now we're gonna measure 1/2 inch from that end. And 1 inch from that. And now you're gonna place your zipper teeth side down and start clipping it to the top curved edge of the purse. Now that you have your zipper clipped to the front panel of your purse, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna base the zipper on with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And you wanna make sure that on the 2 inch mark, you can transfer it onto the tape so it's visible. Then you're gonna pull your tape away and it's not gonna be caught in the seam. So you wanna make sure the tape is pulled away when you are finishing attaching your zipper. Also make sure that your D-ring is placed towards the bottom of the purse, so it's not gonna get in the way of your presser foot. Now that you have the zipper based, you want to transfer this mark onto the other side, and now you can split the tape. Put your front to the side and take your back panel, and you can, just to give you a better visual, you can put your outer panel the way they're gonna be when the purse is closed. So that's why we are putting it upside down. And now we're gonna attach the other end of the zipper. So we want to make sure that those finish ends are on the same side. So we're gonna measure 1/2 inch from that corner and 1 inch from that corner. Now we're gonna place our tape each side down and start clipping it to the curved edge. We want to make sure that our marks align here, because this way we want to make sure that we are using exactly the same length of the tape on the back panel of our purse. So now we're gonna spread the tape where our little snips are, and we're gonna clip it all around the curved edge. When we have that done, we're gonna take the back panel to the machine, and we're gonna base the other half of our zipper to our back panel. Now that we have our zipper base to the front and the back panel, we're gonna move to another step to prep our outer. So now we wanna work on our bottom of our purse. So you're gonna put those two panels right sides together and clip the bottom edge. When you have the two panels clip along the bottom edge, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew along the bottom edge with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then we're gonna do what we did in the front. So you're gonna butterfly the seam, and you're gonna top stitch to make sure that the seam allowances are nice and flat behind the bottom of the purse. This top stitching doesn't have to be perfect. We're gonna be covering it with our bottom panel, so don't stress about it too much. Just make sure the seam allowances are flattened behind your bottom seam. The bottom of my purse is now connected, and I top stitched the seam allowances so they are nice and flat on the inside of my bag. And now I'm gonna prep my bottom panel. So you're gonna take the bottom panel piece and the little extra stabilizer. As you can see, I added a little piece of interfacing to my panel because this vinyl is really flimsy, but if you are using a thicker vinyl, you don't need to do that. This piece is exactly the same size as the piece provided in the pattern for the insert for the bottom of the purse. So now we're gonna take our ruler. So you're gonna take your ruler and you're gonna mark 1 inch away from both long edges. Now using double-sided tape, we're gonna fold those long edges, half an inch inside the panel. Now that my panel is prepped like this, I'm gonna take my outer of my purse and I'm gonna place the panel inside, covering the bottom of my purse. When you have that clipped, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew along the edges with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 4 millimeter stitch length. So you wanna make sure that you have the ends open and you are top stitching along the long edges. My base is now top stitched. Now I'm gonna work on inserting my stabilizer inside the base. So I'm gonna take about 2 feet of thread and thread it through the end of my threader. Open the little channel and just drop the threader through. Making sure I'm not gonna lose the end of the thread. So I have my little threader here and the end of my thread on the other side. Now I'm gonna attach my stabilizer and pull it through using the thread. You want to make sure the stabilizer is centered inside and that it's equal distance from one end, both ends of the base. We don't want to worry about sewing through the thick stabilizer with all the layers of vinyl when we are finishing out our back. All right, so that we have the stabilizer inserted, we can now work on finishing up our outer panels. So you want to clip the sides together. Make sure the zipper stays out of the way of the seam. And when you have your panels prepped like this, you're gonna take them to the machine and you're gonna sew both sides with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now that the sides are sewn, we're gonna work on boxing our corners. So you're gonna open the corners and butterfly the side seams, making sure the side seam is aligning with the bottom seam. You're gonna clip those edges together. Repeat that on the other side. Now that you have both corners prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew both corners with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and you can double the seam to make sure that the stitches won't show when you are using a purse. Now that your corners are boxed, we're gonna trim the seam allowances to about 1/4 of an inch. And we can turn our project right side out. And that's how our purse is coming together. And now we're gonna work on our lining. First, we're gonna start with prepping our slip packet. So you're gonna fold the lining in half, and you're gonna press it. Then you're gonna fold it right sides together and clip the short edges. When you have your panel prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew along those two short edges with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. When you have the panel sewn, you're gonna clip the corners by the folded edge. Just make sure you're not gonna cut any thread. And you're gonna turn the packet right side out. You can press your packet to make it nice and sharp. And when you have your packet panel prepped like this, you're gonna take the small vinyl accent for the top of the packet, and you can use double-sided tape to help it to stay in place. Just choose the right side of the packet, whatever side looks better to you, and put the tape on the wrong side of the packet where you have the open edge. And now you're gonna place the packet in the middle of your accent piece. And now you're gonna fold the other end of the accent to cover the raw edge. And when you have your packet prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna top stitch following the raw edge of the vinyl on the right side of your packet. I like to fold my accent piece so the back it's folded a little deeper than the front, because I won't see the inside of my packet. But this way I'm gonna make sure that when I'm top stitching along this edge, I will catch the back piece of my accent panel. So now we're gonna take it to the machine and we're gonna sew along this raw edge with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 4 millimeters stitch length. And then we're gonna trim our accent piece. Our accent trim is attached. Now we can trim the excess. And now we're gonna attach our packet to the lining panel. So take one of the lining panels, it doesn't matter which one because they are both the same, and you want to place the packet in the center so you can fold the pocket. Just crease it. You may crease the lining panel. And you're gonna align the creases, making sure your pocket is 2 inches from the bottom. Now that you have that place, you're gonna pin the pocket in place. And you're gonna top stitch the pocket onto your lining panel with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 4 millimeter stitch length. Just make sure you're gonna back stitch well on the top of the pocket to make sure it's not gonna unravel when we are using our purse. Now that your pocket is sewn onto your lining panel, you can divide the pocket in a way that suits your needs. I'm gonna create 1 small pen pocket and 1 cell phone pocket and 1 eyeglasses pocket, but you can leave it 1 big pocket, split it in half, whatever you think works best for you. Now that I have the splits of my pocket marked, I'm gonna take it to the machine and I'm gonna top stitch 2 rows of stitching on each side of the split line with 1/8 of an inch space between those 2 lines of stitches. I'm gonna start from the bottom, back stitch on the top and come back down. My pocket is split into 3 the way I wanted it. So now I can move on to finishing up our lining. So you're gonna take the second panel of the lining and you're gonna place both of them right sides together and clip along the sides and the bottom. When you have your lining prepped like this, we want to mark an opening in the bottom of the lining for our turning hole. So mark about 5 to 6 inches, making sure you have about 1.5 inches seams on each end of the box corner. Now that you have your lining prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew along those edges. Just make sure to backstitch well where the turning opening is. That will ensure that our stitches won't come undone when we are turning our project right side up. My lining is sewn. Just a note, if you want a tighter fitting lining, you can increase the seam allowances going from 3/8 to 1/2 inch. Continue the 1/2 inch on the bottom and do the same on the other side. So start with 3/8 and going to 1/2 inch. So that's an option if you want the lining to be a little tighter inside of your back. But now that we have the sides and bottoms sewn, we're gonna box our corners. So you're gonna align the side seam and the bottom seams, clip it together, as you notice, you can see that I'm just placing the seam allowances of the seam on one side, but when I do that, when I nest the the seam allowances against each other like this, I want to make sure that I'm folding the bottom seam allowance in the same direction on both ends. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now that you have that clipped, take it to the machine and sew with the 1/2 inch seam allowance. Make sure to backstitch well on the beginning and on the end of the seam. Now that the corners are boxed, we're gonna trim the seam allowances. And you can turn your lining right side out to see if everything looks good. I can see that my lining is looking good, so I'm gonna keep it wrong side out. And now I'm gonna take the outer of my purse and I'm gonna place it inside of my lining. You wanna make sure that the zipper is out of the way, the end of the zipper. You don't wanna accidentally sew it through. I wanna make sure that my slip packet is on the back of my purse. So I'm gonna make sure that I have the back of my purse on the same side as the slip packet. So my purse is inside of the lining, and I want to make sure that right side of the outer is towards the right side of the lining, and it's looking good. So I'm gonna start clipping the top edge together all around, starting with the side seam. All right, so my top edge is now clipped all around, and I want to make some marks. So I want to make a mark where my seam allowance will meet in a corner. So when I'm sewing around, I'm gonna have the reference point when to pivot my stitch line. So if I start sewing from here, I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna pivot my project to continue my curve seam, and I'm wanna do the same thing on this side. This will help me to keep a nice edge when I'm sewing my outer to my lining. Something to keep in mind when you're sewing your project together, you want to make sure that the tails of the zippers are pointing down, so you're not gonna catch them in a seam. You don't want to close them off, and that you are keeping a consistent seam allowance. So if you think that 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, it's too hard to keep all around the top with the zipper attached, you can sew the top with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Just make sure you're being consistent all around the back as much as possible. All right, so let's take this to the machine and let's work on our top seam. Now my top edge is sewn all around. We wanna make sure everything looks good, and if it does, we're gonna prep our seam allowances for turning. So you wanna clip the part when you have those little pivot corners. Make sure you're not gonna snip any stitches. And now you're also gonna make a little snips along the curved edge. And when you have your top edge prepped like this, you're gonna turn your project right side out. Basically what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to not to crinkle my outer too much. I'm just trying to pull the lining over. And now we're gonna clip our top edge in preparation for top stitching. So you want to reach inside, make sure your seam allowances are nice and aligned. And now you're gonna pull on the zipper tape, making sure you are giving the project a nice curve top edge. You want to take a look to make sure everything is pulled nicely and you have a nice curved edge. When I have everything prepped like this and I'm happy with how my top seam looks like, I'm gonna take it to the machine and I'm gonna top stitch all around my top edge with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 4mm stitch. Now that our top stitching is completed, and just a note, I would also recommend to use a zipper foot when you're going around the top edge because of those D-ring tabs, and I think actually it's easier because you have better visibility to when you are using a zipper foot. So that's just a side tip. Okay, so now that our purse is almost ready, we just have to finish up our lining. So take the lining out. Pull on the open ends of the opening. You can finger press the fabric so it folds easier. And clip it together. When you have the bottom of your lining clipped, take it to the machine and top stitch along the opening with the 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch seam allowance to close the opening. The lining is now closed. We're gonna place it back inside of our bra. And now we're gonna move on to finishing up our zipper. So you want to make sure that the zipper is the same length. Looks looks the same length to me. So now I'm gonna insert my zipper pull. Pull it to the end, make sure the zipper is aligning nicely. All right, now it's perfect. So now I'm gonna finish up my zipper tail. And to finish up the tail of our zipper, I'm gonna use a metal zipper end, but you can use just a piece of vinyl, and that technique is shown in my Aster zipper pouch video, so you can watch that and see how I finished up a zipper there. But now I'm gonna install my metal zipper end. My zipper tail is now installed. You can keep it out or you can put it inside of your purse. Whatever look you prefer. And now the last thing for us to do is to complete our back strap. I'm just gonna do it on a fast forward base. The project is now completed. We have our purse ready to use. It has a zipper closure with the zipper tail, so you can have the zipper outside or inside, whatever look you prefer. Inside we have 3 packets, a pen packet, a cell phone packet, and an eyeglasses or sunglasses packet. On the back we have the zipper packet, and now featuring the overlay of the zipper opening with the same accent vinyl we use on our front. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you're gonna give the project a go. If you do, please make sure to share your results with me in my Facebook group or on Instagram. Links to both are in the description box below. If you like this video and you would like me to create more tutorials, please make sure to give the video a like and to subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave a comment in the comment sections below. Till the next time.